Hi all, welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. So today I came across an interesting video which, hi Deepak, welcome to this episode. I had looked at this video, let me just play a few seconds of that and I have actually shared it.
Plan. First, let's talk about how we can identify intents. Each intent, of course, has a name, what it does. But with the power of LLMs, we can even give it parameters. That is, the AI can pass in custom information into the intent to customize its behavior. For example, if I have an intent to create a reminder, the create reminder intent could have a parameter for the name and the due date of the reminder. Then, when running the large language model, we'll be using a feature known as structured output, which forces the AI to return data in a specific schema. It will generate that schema based off the intents and their parameters in mind, so we can accurately extract the intents from the AI output. Now, with a little bit of prompt engineering, we can tell the AI that we wanted to convert the user message into a series
So this was one part that I had seen, and the other part was about this one, which
translating
also
intent into action, whether we noticed it or not. But because the user's intent can be quite complicated, there really hasn't been a better way around it than letting the user translate the intent themselves. That is, until now. A little while ago, I set out to explore how in the age of AI, we can fundamentally change the way we see the user interface. And the results were interesting. Of course,
Now, I came across this, and there is this GitHub repo which called the Unified Intent Interface. It's like taking user experience UI to a different level altogether. And the key point here is going to be is figure out the intention, convert that to an action, and that action will obviously help you achieve your goal. Now, this seems to be a very interesting proposition. So, from what we have seen, Deepak, okay, my question was, what is the reason why this is, or what does this whole thing mean in terms of UI, UX?
All right. So let me take an attempt to answer from the perspective of what we have seen in the real world in terms of UI and UX. So we had a small argument of why people consider UI and UX to be the same thing, although it is intended not to be the same thing. UX is targeted towards understanding a user's intent of what they want to achieve. Now, in the good old world of application building, the architect or the designer has defined what the intent can be. It's sort of restricted. But in the world of Gen AI, because the canvas is much bigger, the possibilities of performing certain action is much bigger than what was there in a sort of a straight jacket application, which has only one purpose and only that what you can satisfy with it. But in the Gen AI world, where you want it to do certain things, the example we are using is the reminders, right? What if we say, I remind me of this thing, and so why do you want that reminder? What is the intention behind that reminder? What is the action you would want to take with that reminder? All those things become material in the Gen AI world, right? So that's where understanding this intention becomes even more relevant if people are trying to build agents, if there are people trying to build intelligent bots. I know bots is not the most common term being used today, but they would rather call it an agent, right? But behind it is all understanding the intention of the user and performing the whole series of actions which could be possible, right? Which are not decided till
So,
that point
what
of time.
I would say that all the UX today is we are there to meet the intention of the user. That's why we have a business analyst. That's why we have a persona person. We have a thing. We are already meeting the intention. But there's also this word of what the action the user wants to take and what the goal is. So, what's the link between? Let's just keep AI aside for a moment. Like, what is the relationship between intention, action, and result? Because the user wants to get something done. That's a goal. Okay, and the business analysts and this thing, good interfaces do that to a fairly good extent. They help them achieve their goal. Okay, now how does these things relate? I think there are companies who've been doing that well.
So they see the way I interpret is that when you decide, when you already have restricted the intention to something specific, then it is very easy to implement.
Give some example and say how that
uh,
works.
the example would be, say, if you build a IT support agent, so to say, right? Now the intention there is to fix an IT problem, right? To find, so the intention there is to find something which is relevant to the context, why I'm going into that application, right? So that could be simply, I want AI to perform a certain action, and that action, if that, now because AIs today are very powerful, there is a lot more features available for it to perform those actions. Until that intention is clear, so now the way intention is being made clear, as you saw in the video also, is by defining it in words, which we call as a prompt, why something is required. So if you look at all these prompting frameworks, you will see this, there is always a definition of what the goal of the person is, why somebody wants something. So if you say, create a reminder for me, and say, why do you want this reminder? Because I want to get there in time, and that is why I need a reminder for X amount of time. But now this is where the intention can become wider for AI to say. So it's a reminder for me to reach somewhere in time. It can actually look at a much wider context, or says, okay, can I look at, if the person is in a location X, it has to go to Y. Do I need to figure out how much traffic is there at that point of time? How much warning do I need to, how much pre-warning I have to give? So that reminder can be much more intelligent based on the intention. Because now if I put in the reminder, this, I need a reminder because I want to reach X place in time. Now from Y to go to X, all that is intention has to be interpreted by the AI now, because I have not explicitly stated what it will take for me to do those things. So that is where the real intelligence of the AI would come in, where it actually interprets that what needs to be done to achieve this intention of reaching somewhere in time, to remind somewhere ahead of time, and hopefully in the future where it could runs in real time, where it actually is monitoring traffic in the back end, say, oh, today the traffic seems to be it to be different, so the reminder is going to be 1 hour earlier than what it was supposed to be, as per the, because if in a traditional reminder application, fix reminder at 8 o'clock, it will buzz at 8 o'clock. That's what it will do. But an intention based reminder application, I'm saying, and would have all this intention behind it, is why this reminder exists, right? And that is where the real magic of Gen AI can actually come in, where it actually gets that intention from what the user intends to do, why that reminder is required. The intention is the why part of the execution, and how is obviously the execution, which is mostly well understood how something is done, right? But the why part, and that being building that why into that how, is something which is actually going to make AI very, very powerful in my view.
Okay. So if I take another analogy of what you're telling, if it is the why and what. So let's take a simple HR application. Somebody wants to get a address proof. An address proof of, it's a standard feature, right? So when you look at it as, so when we define this, I think the problem starts at the very beginning itself. You say the goal is to get address proof.
Yes.
The goal is already fixed. Okay. Now to get a address proof, you need these information to generate the address proof. I need the employee ID and the ID of the other database, like that, which means to get that information, what is the UI that I need? So you start with the goal, then you determine what the action is needed. From that action, you decide the user interface to the user experience. So it is like you start off with what is the actual goal to be reached, which
Right.
means the goal has already determined how the UI is going to look like. Now, when we say an intention, okay, then it says, why is the goal trying to be reached? What is the broader intention of somebody coming to that? Why? What is the intention of getting a payslip? The intention of, let's say, getting a payslip, for example, is to get a loan approval. Now, the moment that intention comes up, right? So let's say that is where we start off. The intention is to get a loan approval.
Hmm.
If that is there, then the possible actions could be much more different. For example, the
Absolutely.
company as an organization or as an entity providing the service, they could actually say, you want to take a loan? Okay. We actually have a policy to give an advance of 3 months of salary to the employee. The thing opens up. So if the intention is understood, then that gives a lot more flexibility on how the user interface should be. So it would be like, do
Yeah.
you want an address for a loan? And then how it is going to be, you use AI, you do rules, you need somebody else, does irrelevant. But the point is that once you start looking at intention, the possibilities of meeting the customer needs increases significantly. But that was extremely hard to do in the previous generation. Now looks like AI is going to make that job easier for us, but that will only happen if, instead of getting to the goal as your final thing, meeting the intention has to be shifted. So the goal is to meet the intention rather than just getting the goal accomplished.
Absolutely. And actually, since you mentioned this whole idea of the loan and the conversation and the UI, so UI presently, if you see, 90%, or I would say 100% of all AI interface is speech or text, right? It is speech or text, right? That is what the UI has come to mean in the AI world, in that sense. And in between, it might throw up some click here, click there, add some information here, or answer everything in text, right? So intention is either you click a picture of something and give it to AI, or you talk about it. Instead of that, means previously when we used to consider UI, it was what the wireframe should look like. That is no longer a constraint, I would say, because people are comfortable having an interaction in speech or text rather than somebody say fill a 20 field form to give me this, right? So that kind of means at some point you may require that, because some business transaction will definitely require that. But in general cases, and this is true for even getting information out of using you see, that is where my sort of personal pet peeve is, dashboards are irrelevant, right? So because all I'm looking for is an answer, and if the UI can just give me the answer, why would I need to look at a dashboard?
So if we say my goal is to show all the KPIs, then you are doomed from day one. The
Yes.
thought itself, right? From the thought itself, we are doomed. Okay, that application is designed to be inefficient because
Yes.
my goal itself to show all the KPIs in red, green, and blue color with all the
Yes.
numbers.
Yes.
Okay, but the moment we say the intention is to figure out what action I need to take next, then it changes the way how we think and how we do. We have talked about it before in the few episodes. I think this one is about bringing that into focus. And but implementing that was hard. Okay, now if we can, or if we can, I would rather say, the ones who can focus on intention and achieving
Yes.
that intention can make their jobs, their relevance much more stronger, because AI as it exists today, it is not geared to do that.
Yeah. It's
And
little
I
tricky.
don't
Yeah.
know. Okay,
Yeah.
as of now, it is not there. But if it is about achieving goals and actions, your days are numbered. If
Yeah.
all you're going to do is help meet an action and a goal, then the days of the people who are working towards just making something happen for a particular goal, when the goal is kind of defined, your days are numbered. Or maybe let's say your years are numbered at best.
Yes.
So watch out for future episodes on how to kind of go towards intention, or how you can stay relevant even with the threat of AGI or AI. Thanks in for listening, and thanks Deepak for joining.
Thank you.